Back in 2010, Amnesia The Dark Descent took the world by a nightmarish storm. This was a game that didn't have to rely on cheap tricks, like jump scares and over-the-top gore. Instead, it got to rely on its psychological elements and its atmosphere to truly terrorize the player. This was one horror game that actually seemed to do so much right. It showed just enough of the monster that you knew something was stalking you in that dark castle. However, it never showed you too much. It left a lot to the player's imagination. You would hear creaking and snarls all around you, but you never knew when the creature would jump out of the dark and get you. Now, why The Dark Descent was such a masterpiece? Unfortunately, in my opinion, the sequels completely dropped the ball and just did not have the magic the original had. Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, just seemed to take all the aspects of The Dark Descent and oversimplify it. Everything seemed so controlled that you as the player felt you were just on a linear, on-rails path. It just lost so much of the exploration and charm the original game had. And don't even get me started on Amnesia Rebirth. If you thought A Machine for Pigs was a linear experience, then you haven't played this game. It pretty much dropped all the puzzles and exploration from the series and made a game that puts the story first and foremost in front of everything else. While it did have some interesting key points about the lore of the series, overall, it was highly forgettable. In fact, when I go online, it seems most people have completely forgotten this game existed. Thus, this brings us to Amnesia The Bunker. And honestly, this looks like something that could bring the series back to its glorious roots. However, before we take a deep dive into this, I just want to take a brief moment and welcome anyone new to the channel. If you are new, please consider subscribing. I got a ton of stuff in the works that I'd love to share with you all. Also, if you do happen to enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like. But anyways guys, we got a lot to get into, so without further ado, let's get into it. So yes, this game actually has me pretty excited to dive back into the Amnesia universe. Let's just start with the setting. This game takes place during World War I. We play as Henry Clement, a French soldier who ends up in an abandoned bunker. Think you're all alone for a moment and could actually escape the horrors of the war itself. However, we soon discover we are anything but alone. In this bunker is a monster that's referred to as the Beast, a practically unstoppable killing machine that lurks inside the dark halls and rooms, hunting anything that dares to enter its lair. Now this already has me intrigued. So first off, World War I is a setting that is hardly used in video games, and that awful situation of this war makes this a great setting for a horror game. Trench warfare sounds like a nightmare to begin with, and honestly, that type of war should send chills down anyone's spine. Plus, having the game take place in an abandoned bunker in the middle of one of the worst wars in history, while we have this monster hunting us, how much more of a helpless situation could you possibly be in? The atmosphere and setting for the game just seems so good. I'm actually shocked we have not seen more of this in the survival horror genre. Plus, this game is putting gameplay front and center and everything else is taking a backseat. And honestly, after Amnesia Rebirth, I am totally down for this change of pace. It seems like the developers want the player to make their own journey and discover their own means to survival and find out for themselves how to escape the bunker. Instead of having an on-rails experience with a ton of set pieces, we actually get to forge our own path, which is something I love to hear. I'm not against story games, however, with this series, what made The Dark Descent so great was the atmosphere and the puzzles and the exploration. So I'm happy to see that they're turning to more of those type of elements for this game. But it's not just returning to the roots that makes this game sound appealing to me. They're actually trying to add in some new features as well. For starters, this is the first time we're actually given a weapon. And I'm not talking about like a stick or a club. We're actually getting a gun that we could use as a way to shoot locks off doors or as a mean to defend ourselves. Not saying we'll be able to kill the beast that's hunting us, however, we may be able to hurt it as a means to get a few extra moments so we could escape its clutches. Not only are we able to defend ourselves, but we're able to find grenades, bullets, all sorts of items in the bunker. After all, we are a soldier in the middle of a war, so finding weapons would not be too unrealistic. However, they're not so much as weapons as they are tools. For instance, you could use a frag grenade, toss it at some blockage, and open it up, and you forged a new path that you're able to use as you map out your journey to escape this nightmare. That is something that's super cool. You're able to make different paths open on every playthrough. Plus, item placement is completely random. On one playthrough, you might find a frag grenade that you're able to open up a hallway, but on the second time through, it may be just simple bullets. It's always going to be different, thus changing your experience each playthrough. Now, items are not the only thing that's random in the game, but the actual beast itself is randomized as well, and it learns from the player's playstyle on each playthrough. For an example, I mentioned before that you could actually use the revolver as a way to defend yourself to fend the monster off in order to escape it. However, if you are constantly doing this, it's going to make the beast more aggressive towards you, attacking you more often. It's almost like it's trying to get revenge for all the times you hurt it. And that's pretty cool. The fact that we're not able to just flat out learn where it's at on every time and speed run the game in 10 minutes and it's going to add randomness to it is something I'm actually pretty excited to see how well it's done. Overall, I'm pretty excited about this game. I just hope that Frictional Games have learned their lesson from the other sequels in the series, and instead return to the magic and charm that the Dark Descent had. It does seem like they're heading in the right direction, but we'll just have to wait and see. After all, I've been let down by them before, so I don't want to promise this game will be good because I haven't played it, so I guess we'll find out together. One thing I do really hope they add is full support for custom stories. In Amnesia The Dark Descent, you were able to download and play community-made campaigns, and honestly, with everything I hear about the bunker, I think this would be a great addition to it. I would love to see what type of campaigns the community comes up with, especially with a horror game based in World War I. Either way, we don't have much longer to wait to get our hands on this title and decide for ourselves whether the game lives up to the original or is just another letdown, as the game is set to be releasing on May 16th, so just a little bit over a month away at the time of this recording. It's going to be released on Steam, the Xbox Series S and X, as well as the Xbox One. Plus, it's going to be on the PlayStation 4 and the PS5. And the game is also launching into Game Pass. So if you like these type of games and you have a Game Pass membership, this is one you're definitely going to want to check out. But I want to hear what you all think. Are you guys excited to play this? Do you think it's going to return to its original roots? Or do you think it's just going to be another letdown in the Amnesia franchise? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, guys, I got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to get back to the grind, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.